Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Gift and you're welcome to Gift and She Couture. So in today's tutorial, I want us to learn how to sew a corset. I already uploaded a cutting and drafting tutorial of this class. So if this is your first time of coming across my channel, please do well to subscribe, like, share, comment. So let's get started. Alright, the first thing I did was to place my pattern paper and cut just like what you're seeing on the screen, and then I went ahead to add half inch, and for the side I still maintain the 1 inch. After then I went ahead to cut my collar stay on the cups because I'm going to do bust caging. I hope you've gotten your underbrow wire. So from there I went on my machine and then I started sewing. Please don't forget to subscribe. All right, so after that I went ahead to sew. As you are sewing, just be pushing it, since its collar stays kind of hard, just be pushing it, push it little by little, just like what you're seeing on the screen. I would have forwarded this place, but I feel like you need to see this. So if you are going to use peplum stay or collar stay, just follow this process. You don't have to be in a haste. All right, when you are done sewing, always make sure you cut off your thread. After you are done sewing the cup, go ahead and notch it, and when you are done sewing, it should look like this. If you've already watched the cutting and drafting tutorial of this video that you are seeing, you will understand more better. But if you are yet to watch, I'm going to upload it. I will add it on my description box. So after that, I went ahead to iron it and open it just like what you are seeing on the screen. And when you are ironing, remember I notch the sides. I told you to notch it. All right, so this is how it looks like, just like what you are seeing on the screen. It should look like this. So next is to go ahead and pick up the upper part. It's three this thing that will be cut. So you are going to go ahead and sew it to the other end and sew it to this end. And don't forget, for these cups I cut two ankara. So on one I'm going to use stay. You can see it on my machine, and the other side I use which other side that I'm going to use for the caging, I use the collar stay. So just like what you're seeing on the screen, this is the one for the collar stay. All right, the one I use collar stay for and the one I use stay, you still see it if you are patient enough to watch the video till the end. And don't be in a hurry to sew. Just take your time. Whenever you are sewing, you can see it's not something you need to rush. And especially when it comes to that caging, you just have to exercise patience, honestly. In case you are sewing for a client, just make sure you charge your money, because corset is not easy. All right, so the next thing is to turn to the other side and then sew it to the end. So while I was sewing this particular one that I gum collar stay on, I realized that one was longer, but when I was sewing it, the one I used stay on, everything was equal. So I just feel like the collar stay, the collar stay is hard, and when you are sewing it will not relax properly on the ankara. Do you understand? I think that's the cause, but it does not really matter. So just like what you are seeing on the screen, you can see excess of, let's say, half an inch. But remember, like I said, for the one I added the hairstay on, there was no excess. So this is what I got after I finished sewing. And just like this, go ahead and notch it and then iron it. So now I've already done it, I've already ironed it. All right, just like what you're seeing on the screen, and I've marked the sewing, what I'm going to use for the caging. All right, so you are going to measure half, just like what you're seeing on the screen. Please, you are going to measure half inch. Use your pencil to mark it just like this. Remember, the half inch is what we are going to use to sew the cups. All right, so exclude the half inch and mark just like what you're seeing on the screen. For example, just look at what I did here. So go ahead and use your bony to start sewing. And when you are sewing the bony, please, like I said, you just have to exercise patience. All right, go ahead and sew it just like what you're seeing on the screen. I have to reduce the video, the timing, because it was too long, but with this process you should be able to get what I'm saying, because the video was long, honestly. So next is for you to go and sew it round. Remember, when you are sewing bony like this, it's definitely going to cut, so do not get tired. All right, I'm saying this in advance to encourage you, because you are going, these are the minor challenges you are going to be facing. All right, just sew it round. So when you get to this point, make sure you let the bony to line align with the first one, and then go ahead and cut it. So when you are done cutting it out, make sure as you're sewing, make sure you cut your thread. You can see our curve is already standing, so the next one is to go ahead and sew the middle. I already told you to get all these things done if you've watched the first video, so this should be easier. Then be careful when you are sewing this bony. Just be careful. So go ahead, take your time, sew it gently. You don't have to rush. Do you get? You don't have to be in a haste. Then when you get to that point, make sure you top stitch it and then cut your thread, then cut the bony out, just like what you're seeing on the screen. All right, so when you are done now, always before you start sewing, please make sure you mark it. You can see I use my pencil to draw the line so that I'll be able to know where to sew. All right, so from there, go ahead and sew the half cup. When you are done, go ahead and notch it. All right, the next thing, just like what you're seeing on the screen, follow this and then notch it. I had to record all this and cut out some parts because so go ahead and place it. Always make sure you trim off your bony, just like what you're seeing on the screen. All right, so just exercise patience when you're sewing corset. Honestly, you have to exercise patience, and I hope you've already gotten your underbrow wire. Like I said, I told you to get it. So for my bust, I use 36 because my bust is 36. So I think this is the last one for the bust caging. All right, so when you are done, if you've been following me, yours should look like this. So when you are done, go ahead and trim off the thread. So like the half inch that we left, we are going to trim it off, and the purpose for this, I must tell you, is so that when you are turning it, your cup will be able to relax properly, just like this. After I was done, this is how it looked like, and yours should look exactly like this. Believe me, if you've been following me, and if you are going to do the same, you are going to get this result or better one, and I believe you can always do it. So it should look like this. Go ahead and trim off the thread. You can see our cup is already standing. So after that, this is what I did. So I'm going to show you how I got the cup, the first cup. So go ahead, press your cup outside, push it outside, just like what you're seeing on the screen. All right, and then go ahead and use your stay. You have to use stay on this. You can use stay or fiber. I've never used that fiber. It's always stay that I've been using, and stay is expensive now, so know how to manage. All right, so when you're done, it should look like this. Go ahead and use your iron to press it. When you know oyster already has gum, when you press it, it will stick to it. Just take your time, do all these things. It really helps. All right, don't be in a haste. So when you are done, just like this, go ahead and trim off the excess. All right, trim it off. So when you get to that bust area, it's going to be much too. When you are done, you should trim it off. So for me, I added like 3 layers of stay, and when I was done, I went ahead to um press it very well for it to stick to it. All right, so when you are done, flip it to the other side, and yours should look like this. All right, you can see our curve is already standing. Then go ahead and iron it again. Make sure you take your time to press it, and it should look like this. So when you are done, this is the outcome. We've already done the first one. It should look like this. Next thing is to go ahead and pick up the one that we already added stay. So this is our lining. This is what we are using for our lining. So I'll go ahead and iron it, and then when I'm done, this is what I'm going to do. I'll place it and then sew it. All right, after I finish sewing, it should look like this. Go ahead and turn it just like what you are seeing on the screen. You can see the purpose why, the reason I cut the collar stay, for it to relax. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it. So this very face, this surface that you're seeing, this is what we are going to use for the our corset, while the place I use for the caging is going to be inside. So this is the outer part. All right, so after I was done, I went ahead to join it. Remember, I added 1/2 inch, and this is what I did. I joined it. After I finished joining it, I went ahead to iron it. You can trim off the excess or leave it, but before then, I made sure I notch it for it to relax. All right, so if you've gotten to this point, I've already gone ahead to mark my line, and I've cut what I'm going to use for the taping. All right, for what I'm going to use for the bias lines as bias to cover my bony, and what I use there is like 1.2. So if you're going to use the tiny bone, you can go ahead and use the fabric of your choice, any one that you want, and close. So this is how I folded it. I didn't want to minus it, that just like from the cutting. I decided to follow this process, and it still came out nicely. So you can see the way I folded it. So depending on how you want your bias to be, how many bias you want on your fabric, you should be able to fold it to your own taste. So this is when I was ironing the fabric. Remember, in case you decide to cut your fabric, it should be on bias. All right, so from there I went ahead to iron my lining, went ahead to iron every part that I've sewn. Make sure you follow um the same process. All right, so this is how it is. Go ahead and iron yours. You should be able to do that. So after I was done, I went ahead to lay my pattern paper. The back I cut into 3, remember? So go ahead and join it. So don't remove the paper, do not trash your pattern paper. Make sure you keep it nicely, so when it's time for you to sew, you should be able to follow this process. So go ahead and join it so that you won't get confused. Do you understand? So after joining it, made sure I use my pin to hold it, so that when I'm sewing, there will be no need for me to start looking for where I kept one part or the other. So with this process, this method is faster. So when you sit on your machine, it will just go. You can see I'm done joining, so I'll go ahead and start sewing. I also went ahead to join the lining as well, just like what you're seeing on the screen. You can see how it is. Do the same process. So after I was done joining, I went ahead to iron it. Please, before you sit on a machine, make sure you join it, just like what you're saying. Make sure you join it. Do not say you're a professional. Though. So I know what I'm saying. All right, make sure you pin it down. Make sure you pin it down. I don't know why I'm emphasizing on it, but make sure you pin it down. I know the stress. It's not just like 2 pieces. In case you decide to cut like 4 pieces, all right, 4 pieces, make sure you can join it, pin it, just like what you're seeing on the screen. All right, so it should look like this. And when you are done, go ahead, go to your machine and start sewing. So now I've gone ahead to sew the front, the ankara, and this is how it looks like, and this is the time to start notching. So the purpose for notching is for you to relax very well. So this is the outcome after I was done ironing. This is it. Yours should look like this. So the next thing is for us to go ahead and fix our bony. Just like, if you are familiar with bony, it will be easier for you. But if you are not familiar with bony, just sew the edges. Alright, the edges, please, because if you don't know how to use it, your thread will be cutting. Alright, so from there I went ahead to, you remember I've already marked the lines where my bony will be. So after I was done, this is the outcome because I used the cloth that I cut, remember, to tape it down. So this is what you. So it was time for me to do my bone panels, and the first thing I did was to mark 2 inches all the way to where it stops, and then use another paper stay, use another fabric to sew it and then turn it. Anyways, you still see what I did there. So when you get to this point, do the same thing, and then I went ahead to sew it just like what you're seeing on the screen. So the lines, the my bone panels, I'm going to use like 3 lines. So this is when I was sewing it, top stitching it down, and then from there I went ahead to create the first bone, the second bone, and the third bone. All right, so after I was done, I went ahead to put my loop. So the reason I'm using clothes for my looping is because I've sewn this corset for customers, and most time they always come back with complaint that the loop has removed the highlights you get. So that's why I prefer using this one. So after I was done, this was how it looked like, and if you choose to use your highlights, fine, but this one. So after that I went ahead to turn my lining. You can see I didn't put bone in that lining, and then from there I went ahead to put my bone on my bone channel, just like what you're seeing on the screen. So I went ahead to do the second one and then the third one, and this is the outcome. You can see the way it's standing, and when you turn it there is no joining at the back. So that really give us a neat finishing. All right, and it's still um exercise the same effect. All right, so after I was done, I went ahead to sew the front, the back. I turned it with lining, and this is the outcome. So after I was done, it was time for me to join this side. I went ahead to join this side just like this, lining to lining and fabric to itself. So from there, you just have to be patient. So if not that I reduce most of the I cut out most of the video, most parts. So this was what I did. Just go ahead and sew it gently, sew the side, and then when I was done I went ahead to sew the lining as well, the same inch. For example, you remember I added 1 inch, and this is the outcome. This is the outcome. Yours should look like this. There is no. So the next thing is for me to go and brace the lower part, which I'm going to use what's it called, a piece of this fabric to tape it down. All right, so when you are done it should look like this. You can see our corset is already standing. So this is the inner and this is the outer part. So I've already gone ahead to fix one of the cups, so I'm going to show you how I did that. You can see how firm the cup is and how it's standing. Go ahead and place your cup on the middle. All right, in the middle, just like what you're seeing, and then start sewing. When you are sewing this very part, do not be in a haste, do not rush, take your time, just be sewing it little by little. Do you understand? Just sew it. I don't even know how to explain, but do not rush. All right, especially this cup has bone, so that it won't cut because the stress of starting all over. All right, just take your time, be pressing your machine, and when I was done, I turned to the other side just like what you're seeing on the screen, and then I continue sewing the second cup. You should as well do the same thing. Go ahead and sew the second cups. All right, please don't forget to share, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, subscribe, say something in the comment section. All right, so go ahead and sew it just like what you're seeing on the screen, and when you get to that point, make sure you top stitch it. Then always make sure you cut out your thread, and when you are done it should look like this. So the next thing, since we are going to use our underbust wire, is to go ahead and fold a bias. You must cut it on a bias form and then sew the cup. So we want to cover the sewing. So in the process of covering the sewing, we are going to use insert our underbust wire to it. So go ahead and sew it. When you get to this point, when you get to the extreme end, make sure you cut it out and then fold it just like what you're seeing on the screen, and then continue sewing. Please, like I said, do not rush. All right, so from there the next thing is to go ahead and cut out this excess. The purpose for this is for it to allow the folding to relax properly. After I was done, this was how it looked like. Yours should look like this as well. Cut it out and then go ahead and fold it. What you are creating is a panel for that underbust wire. All right, do not top stitch it. Go ahead and start sewing. Just be careful when you are sewing these very parts. You need patience. So I know when I was saying it, I know how many times my thread cut. All right, and then but just be patient. Then you see, the one thing about this method, it gives your clothes a nice neat, all right, a nice knitting, and this is the outcome. So after you are done like this, it should look like this. Please, yours should look like this. If it's not like this, loosen the tape and then continue. So the longer part of this bone is going to go to the side, and the shorter part is going to go to the center. And this was it. After I was done, I went ahead to top stitch it. Remember I told you to not to top stitch it initially, then top stitch the edges so that our underbust wire can be safe. All right, so after I was done doing that, I went ahead to tape the down part. All right, and that was it. I hope this video was helpful. All right, and do not forget, if you watch this video to this part, till this part, you are good to go. The next thing after that, I went ahead to sew the rope where I'm going to use for the loop, and that's it. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.